We are live on the SideQuest live, coming at you on this beautiful Sunday evening. That's as much energy as you're gonna get from me. As much energy you're gonna get from me, because I am tired. Someday. I am one of the many hosts on this on this wonderful show. We're actually gonna have a pretty packed house today. You can find me there. Double D, Dolly Demovsky, kind of pointing down there. D. The person above me, Taylor Bliss.
That's me.
At Taylor Bliss. Kitty Corner. Zach.
Catty Corner.
Okay, Catty Corner. Zach. Okay, Quest. More like Puppy Corner because Kitty Corner from Taylor is Sam Dixon.
I was going to say, you said kitty corner, and I was like, oh, he must be pointing at me. Apparently not.
Yeah, it was me.
And then in the ether, at some point, will be joining us, JJ. He's still running his Tandy 1000 that he's having some issues. His compact Presario that he's still having some issues logging in with.
He's probably overheating because he doesn't have any AC.
It's true. It's true. I mentioned it's Sunday. The show last week was just me, myself, and I, and it was one of our most watched shows in a long time.
Yeah, you say that all the time. Like, you don't show up, it's the most watched show. You do show up, it's the most watched show.
It's either if it's just me or if it's everybody but me. So it's a weird if it's
there's only one thing that people love, and that's Dally and not Dally.
Dally and not Dally. Gents, it is awesome to see your lovely, lovely faces. Always good to hang out with my fam. How you guys doing?
Amazing. Wonderful.
I'm tired, but thank you for asking.
Well, it's sorry, I'm scratching my nose here. A lot of news this week.
Yeah, hit me. I was out. I didn't catch a goddamn thing.
Good for you. I'm gonna start with here. Where is it? Via the. It was on the
internet.
Nikkei. Well, I'll point to the actual Nikkei article, which you guys can definitely see. It's one of those days. Let me share the screen here. Big news, everybody. For those folks that vehemently said we are definitely going to get a new Switch announcement this year, it will be launching this year. According to the Nikkei and Nintendo, I'm going to hit let's see if I can translate this page. There you go. Nintendo is not going to be announcing new hardware this... Oh, it's not showing up. Oh, well, whatever. Is not going to be announcing new hardware this year. This is courtesy of Nikkei, the interview they did with Nintendo's president. But
Mario.
Yeah, with Mario. Totally
Stupid.
They, as transcribed, there is no new hardware Nintendo is planning on releasing between now and March, end of March. So now they could very well announce new hardware, but they're definitely not releasing, supposedly, according to this article. So, and the interview that took place. For every freaking person, every insider has been saying for the last year at least that we got the Switch Pro coming. It's going to be called the Switch Advance. It's going to be called the Super Switch. Switch Plus. It's definitely coming. It's going to be the next Switch. It's the Switch 2, but it's definitely coming this year. We got a Switch Lite with an OLED coming this year, and now supposedly we got nothing coming this year except for JJ. JJ's coming this year. That sounded wrong, but maybe. Welcome, JJ. You're doing it the most opportune time. We're talking about Nintendo stating that the Nikkei stating via an interview with Nintendo's president that they are not releasing new hardware, brand new hardware this year. There will be no Switch successor this year.
So
thoughts, everybody.
Yeah, so I will say Hot Girl or Dove Gray, our friend,
Yes. Yep.
posted an hour ago actually
Oh,
about this.
did
Said
they?
our opinion and information we have received regarding the new upcoming Nintendo Switch iteration has been and has remained Q1 2023 Western / post fiscal year in 2022. 2022 Nindo is what they say. Japan. I know what you read. I know what you've heard. We still believe it is coming then. Then they follow up and say, to add to this, 100%, there will be technical specifications leaked from a non gaming news publication at least 1 month prior to its public announcement. Those specifications will be correct. So that's what we got, and they've been on the money about this ever since. So yeah.
They also said that there is going to be a Switch Lite OLED. They were kind of pushing for a Switch Lite or a new small Switch or a Switch kind of a budget Switch that's supposed to be launching this year that they've been saying as well. Haven't heard anything yet about that being announced, but that may be pushed to next year. I don't know. My thoughts are still we're not going to get a new Switch until next year. I was thinking it would probably be March, only because that's the end of their fiscal year. But then you're looking at whenever Zelda is going to launch. They're saying they said spring, or did they say Q1 of 2023? Who knows? I believe this is going to launch the same time as the Zelda game. Also, could launch the same time as what the hell, JJ? Could launch the same time as he's frozen again, my friends. He's got his computer's overheating. Could launch the same time as the Mario movie, which actually could be kind of a fun tie-in when you think about it.
I don't. You really think they would? I feel like if it launched at the same time Mario movie, it's just coincidence.
It could be, but when you're looking to sell hardware, any type of PR, any type of marketing is good marketing. I guess. I don't know, especially with.
I mean, I know that it's Mario, but I mean, it is a Western movie.
Mm-hmm. It's a Western movie, but
so
they
did delay
Minions,
it.
And,
but Japan loves the Minions. So.
Yeah, but we're not releasing a new Nintendo hardware based on the release of a Minions movie.
Yeah, but hey, listen, that's why they got that studio to make that movie, is because Japan loves Minions. I just realized this, but yeah.
That new Minions movie was okay. I went and saw that. So any thoughts on this? I mean, it's
no thoughts.
I mean, here's the thing: we're already in August anyway. So yeah, I don't. We were going to watch as the amount of people talking about hardware releases slowly diminished in number. We're kind of too close to a lot of sales window targets for them to release something this year. Because if they were going to release something, it's going to be ideally October, because you want some level of PR traction before November, and we don't. There's no time.
I still think, and we've talked about it before, they have the Splatoon OLED coming out in September, which I think is pretty, it's smart to your. This is not meant to be a Splatoon shirt. It just looks like it. But I'm still. They're moving past Mario Kart, maybe finally, on the pack-in game for Switch is in the holidays, and I think they'll probably focus on Switch Sports. Right? We've talked about Switch Sports. Seems like a shoe-in bundle game for the Switch, for the OLED, because they are trying to transition to the OLED. But that seems like a slam dunk. Get that out there, get a bunch of folks who maybe haven't picked up Switch Sports yet, because obviously a lot of people have. I think they said almost 5 million people have bought it already around the world. But, they could very well really boost sales of Switch Sports and the OLED, the SWOLED in the holidays by releasing some sort of combination there. So, I haven't upgraded to the SWOLED. I know JJ did. I know everybody I know who has upgraded this to the SWOLED absolutely loves it. It's definitely the way to go with the Switch, because that screen is pretty gorgeous. I guess if you don't have Switch Sports, that might be a good call. But I guess, yeah, Nintendo is very safe this year, this holiday season. They're not facing the same type of it feels like they're not going to face the same type of competition from PlayStation and Xbox in terms of hardware, in terms of software selling hardware, I guess, because Game Pass, Xbox is focusing on Game Pass. You really don't need to worry about the Xbox consoles. However, I did see for the first time, I saw an Xbox Series X, 3 boxes at Target just sitting there next to a stack of the Xbox Series S's as well. And I thought,
Dead console.
That's a dead console. No, it's smart for Microsoft. We talked about it. They're pivoting to Game Pass. It's really the ultimate choice. Pun. Let's see if JJ can get in this time. There he is.
Hey, he's finally here.
Yeah, I don't know. And PlayStation is just, they're having all kinds of issues. But
well, yeah. So like you're saying, like Nintendo just kind of wins this year by default because they actually have games coming out. Like no one else has anything coming out besides like 2 things maybe for Sony. But Nintendo has games that could be people's favorite games ever every couple of months. So it's like that's just kind of the winner there. So they just win. Sadly.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we'll move on. Speaking of Xbox, there actually is some Xbox news that I wanted to share, which I think is actually pretty cool. Xbox has joined, speaking of joining Nintendo, Xbox has joined Nintendo in now allowing a family plan for Xbox Game Pass, which I think is actually cool. I'm just kidding, not joining Nintendo. But a family, friends and family plan for Game Pass started testing in Colombia and Ireland. Which I think is actually a really cool thing. So you and 3 or 4 other people can get included in that. I know, like I know a lot of people who do that for the Switch, for the Nintendo Online stuff there.
You get a year for $2 basically if you and like 10 Switch, other people.
Now, I mean, I wonder. Yeah, exactly. I Game Pass needs to put out a yearly subscription. I would plunk, however many. What would it be, about $150? No, it'd be like $200 basically for a yearly subscription to Game Pass. But I could see myself doing that. But I think it's a great. Or
you can convert your gold.
You can convert the gold, and if you're lazy like me, you won't do that. And Microsoft wins out in the end. But no, this is really cool. I think it's about time that they did this. It's a win for everybody. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, cool.
I don't know. Makes sense. I think it's interesting that they're testing it in South America.
Ireland's definitely in South America.
You're looking at Colombia, so that's the first that I said. I meant as far as the Americas go, that the fact that South America, Colombia specifically, was the target is interesting to me.
Probably because their dollar is like super low. They're trying to test it with people who like see like, oh, let's see what people do. Like let's see like what the consumers will do with like being able to basically game the system, because you can game it pretty hard if you have like. If you and 10 of your boys get together and be like, hey, let's all pay $5 for a year, like that's
I mean, and which the same thing happens with Nintendo Switch Online family plans and all that kind of stuff. Communities pop up. Every single time this happens, there's dedicated social circles just for maxing out these types of family plans. So
there is, and these convert they convert to long-term users, right? At first, you're going to have people who maybe don't use Xbox are going to join in now, right? I'm going to have friends who don't have Game Pass. My brother and his boys, my nephews, they don't have Game Pass Ultimate, but now I'll be able to log in with the family account. They'll be able to get in on my account. It's a lot cheaper for both of us. They can try out some games, as they get older. I can have, my cousin do it too. That converts really well for Microsoft, because then down the line, those people become long-term, Xbox users. So it's a good deal. Good stuff. More news. Guess what, guys? There's more news. This one's really good. obviously, in the land of mergers and acquisitions and good stuff happening, we've talked about all the good stuff happening to Ubisoft and how they're just winning, round after round after round of PR with all the good things happening over there. Perfect timing for Tencent to come in and say, yeah, we're going to take a bigger stake in Ubisoft. I think their current stake is like 5%. Yeah, they already have a 5% stake, and they definitely want to get a bigger cut of that pie. It's real interesting, look at that. They could offer up $100 a share, and bump that up to, let's see, it could bump up quite a bit. I don't know what that translates to, but is this enough to help Ubisoft get a little bit of cash influx, or?
No, I think it's a predatory move for Tencent to be like, hey, we don't have any faith in you, but we want you, so we're just going to wait until you guys just crash.
Either that or Tencent sees something coming where Ubisoft is going to get acquired and they want in on the ground floor while they're low right now, because all of the Ubisoft press over the past I don't know has been pretty negative, and so that's driven down. I'm actually, hold on, before I just spout random shit based on my gut feeling, let's look at the Ubisoft stock price over the past
Their
2
share
months.
is $9. That's what it says when I Google it.
Yeah, but what is it down over the past 6 months? It's down 17% over the past 6 months. It actually jumped quite a bit. Yeah. Probably because of the investment. Oh yeah, look at that! It coincides with the investment from Tencent. So we'll ignore that part and say that what it was before, which was like $8.15, which would have put it down closer to negative 20% over the past 6 months. Mm-hmm. If I'm Tencent, I look at that. I look at the trend, the existing rumors about them potentially looking for a buyer, or buyers potentially looking at Ubisoft, and it just makes sense to have more of it so that when it gets scooped up and they announce a per share price, Tencent makes a little profit off of it, or potentially gets involved in the acquisition. Who knows?
Tencent with League, with all their League IP stuff that they're doing now, they do really interesting things by letting other studios develop games in their world. So potentially, because they have the League MMO being worked on, they have the League action RPG being worked on, they have the League fighting game being worked on. There's potential for Ubisoft to jump in and help in any of those. So yeah, it seems it's just a really strategic thing, because they're always pretty decisive with who they choose to invest in. So yeah.
But at the same time, it always feels like there's never too many pies for 10 cents fingers.
Right, they're in everything. Yeah.
10. There could be 10 fingers.
At least
10 cents.
1000.
10 hundredths. And I think one real nice bit of news that we should all be thankful for, cock. We should be thankful for cock. Or is it Coke? Well, it's certainly something. Cock or Coke.
It's neither anymore.
It's neither anymore, because now it's Plaion. Plaier. That's, by the way, the name of the podcast is Plaion. Plaier.
So doesn't this feel so much like a really mediocre decision that somebody spent a shit ton of money paying the company to come up with?
Absolutely, yes.
That's what it sure feels like.
Oh,
somebody,
man.
and they just settled on Plaion. Oh,
it's just the worst. It is such a startup waiting to get acquired in 2011, 2012.
They
already did.
This definitely has their next product is going to be on Kickstarter or Indiegogo.
Have you seen the the design document for the Pepsi logo, like
Oh,
them
yeah,
describing, like this is very much that, and I love it. It's just like the triangle angles represent how gamers come together and able to turn. It's just so, I love it.
The looping within it is the gravitational pull that the logo has towards consumers.
Let me see if I'll get a close up of this logo here. There it is.
It's
beautiful.
We made a pun about playing video games.
And it's a play symbol, and it's looping on itself.
Is
It's
it
Mobius
supposed to be a letter P in the middle or a flag?
Yes. A little bit of everything.
It reminds me of something.
It's the OnLive logo.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
god.
dude. Yeah.
All right, you ready? Here. I'm going to stop sharing this so that I can share this guy right here. Bam. There it is. You're so true. It's the OnLive logo. Oh
All right, let's make let's make the lines a little thicker and just put a little eraser in the middle, and we can make that a P. Okay.
They're probably
Make
thinking,
it- make
no
it
one's using that
green.
OnLive logo anymore, so we can use it. The kids like that Morbius movie. What about a Morbius strip? I'm sure it's Mobius strip.
Yeah.
Mobius.
It was an attempt was made.
It looks like a play button. We can go start. We can.
Well, there you
Kids
go.
sure like
Plaion.
Morbin.
More kids sure like more. Maybe they'll like Plaion. Plaion. Oh, goodness.
Peloton.
Anyways, yeah. Peloton. It is a weird logo to say the least, but yeah. So there you go, Taylor. All the news that you care about. I'm sure there was more stuff, but that's all I cared to actually.
I was gonna say nothing that I care about.
Nothing that you cared about.
I'll mention something just randomly.
Okay.
Evo this year is actually really good.
It's been so good.
I'm shocked.
PlayStation's Evo.
I'm shocked at how good it is. I didn't think PlayStation or Sony would be able to like pull something off, but hey,
I didn't think anybody was going to care enough, to be quite honest, or care about the right things. I should say is maybe more accurate.
Well, there are some things to complain about for sure. Though.
Sure,
there's a lot of ads, which is very Sony. But hey,
yeah.
I mean it's Sony running it on the first time. They've been, the organization has just kind of been bleeding money because of COVID. So that's been harder than usual, but also
they kind of killed it. It's better ran than it's been ran for the last couple of years, which is like really a lot to say. Because Evo's been going downhill since the head guy stepped down and the two twins who were involved stepped away and did their own game studio. The guys who are working on the League fighting game, they're kind of back and involved in different ways, and it's just like all the people are back in different capacities and not having to like carry the burden of it now. So yeah, the people who care are there, and it's good. And all these games having rollback has also been a really good thing too, because the competition is super high. People can play these games online from home and not have to go to tournaments, so it's been fun to watch that just kind of blossom. It's been really cool. I've enjoyed it a lot. So that's it.
And they announced a new Fatal Fury, so that's all I care about.
And that's the new Fatal Fury, yeah.
Let's move on to games that we have been gaming, and there is quite a lot. Quite a lot. So, who wants to go first? I know everybody's been playing something crazy. You know what? Here, let me do this one. I'm gonna nominate someone who hasn't maybe been on the show in a while to talk about the games that they're gaming, and that would be our good friend
me,
Sam.
Oh boy.
I'm looking for the trailer for this one, but yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna start with that. Yeah. So, known as, well, actually, I don't even know that. I was gonna say resident gotcha gamer, but I'm not sure that that's accurate. But let's say open world ish gotcha players. Tower of Fantasy, a new action adventure MMO RPG gotcha game coming out on PC and mobile August 10th.
11th.
Oh,
Or
August
is it?
11th? Oh,
Yeah.
maybe preload is August 10th. My
Yes,
bad.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I thought it was August 9th to August 10th. But yeah, okay. So, yeah. It is, as you would expect, anime-ish inspired, more futuristic ish, sort of modern technology
Ish.
mixed with future technology and obviously magic. And the gotcha in this game is weapons. Characters are weapons, and you make your own character, but then you can augment your character's looks and stuff with these weapons that you get through these gotcha. You basically rotate through weapons as if they are characters, and yeah, got to play a little bit of it this weekend. Seems fun. Didn't dive too much into it because I will be checking it out once it does in fact get released. But it's interesting. A lot more fast-paced combat. A lot more combat focused from what I've seen so far. Didn't get to try any of the multiplayer, which is going to be, I think, the bigger draw for this because it seems like you can do a lot of the content in multiplayer, and it seems that it'll just drop you out of your team real quick for you to do that sort of non-multiplayer allowed content, and then it pulls you right back in as soon as you're done with that team. So, didn't get to experience any of that. They did have. It seems like they're going to have like sort of Destiny style world events in this game too, because it is a sort of MMO. So you are able to see other characters out there on the map that are on the same server and same sort of like world as you. So it's interesting. That multiplayer, I think, is going to be the important thing. It does allow cross save through PC and mobile. I think the big question, especially as me as resident Genshin expert, right now I don't know that it's as interesting as something like that. But again, that multiplayer, because the problem with Genshin is you can do very limited activities together with other players. If you can do story content or, let's say even like 60% of the world content with other players in Tower of Fantasy, I think it's a big draw to this game. And obviously, again, as I said with Genshin all the time, the ability that you can cross-save between PC and mobile, pretty big. And it is at iOS and Android. My only big complaint right now is controller support isn't fully there yet. You can play like 90% of or I would say probably about 75% of the game with a controller. But a lot of the menuing and all that stuff right now, you still require either touching your screen or using a mouse and keyboard. So keep that in mind as you're playing. So there's some stuff to build here. This is the world version of this game. I believe it's been out in China for a while.
Okay.
Maybe not too long, maybe just a couple of months, but it's been out somewhere else for at least a couple of months now. So
it's interesting how absolutely, how I don't say but how the gacha style games have really evolved over the last few years, especially with the popularity of stuff like Tower of Fantasy and other things that Genshin Impact. They're no longer these 2D puzzle style gotchas, the puzzle quest or match 3 stuff. They're full on giant games to the point where the game that I was playing before, I'm still playing Xenoblade 2, has a considerable gotcha aspect to it. But
It was not. It was not a good part of that.
Not
not
a
a good
good, not a good choice, I tell you.
But they've obviously evolved over the years, and they're definitely stuff that's much more enjoyable. Apparently,
Well,
so.
MiHoYo has 2 of them working themselves. Zenless
Yeah.
Zone Zero had a beta test this weekend, and they've
okay.
also got another one of the what is it, Star Rail, that's in their other
Yep.
franchises
Cool.
world. So it's these continue to grow. This will be interesting. We'll see if it can carve a niche
Sure.
out here. I'm not sure if it's going to be on, if it has its own launcher, if it's on Steam or Epic. But yeah, August 10th or 11th, one of those two.
Something like that.
Free to play. All of these free to start sort of games. And the
Yeah.
season passes and battle passes and all that sort of stuff. You sort of know what you're getting yourself into.
Sure.
With those going into free to play, but
Free to start. I like that.
yeah.
Free to start.
Well, that's the kind words that Nintendo usually uses
Yeah.
with all
Yeah.
of their stuff.
Yeah, so it'll be on Steam and Epic. I just
Yep.
looked it up.
Well, there you go. So maybe deck supported, which Genshin currently isn't? Question mark.
Yeah.
So
Whoa.
I wouldn't count on it.
hey, well, if
What
you
else?
need
What else
if
been
you
playing,
need a
dude?
controller and some touchscreen inputs and stuff like that, what a perfect device to do it.
Mhm.
Worst case, you could always emulate an Android device on there if they don't block that, because that'll
Yeah.
probably work.
The only other thing I have been playing basically is the Steam Deck. Well, I guess it's been a while since I've been on here. I have 100%ed the Hot Wheels DLC for
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
yeah.
man.
So I apologize to everybody who plays that DLC in the future. It's like, oh, nice, high speed, and I'm up by like 100. But that was great. That continues to be awesome. There's a reason I 100%ed it. Really enjoy that game. Now I just have to wait until Forza releases the next DLC already. So anticipating that. And then, it's just been mostly poking around with the Steam Deck still. I've recently found out that there was an update maybe a little bit ago that borked the ability to do desktop mode correctly. So you have to like go and play the games in desktop mode as opposed to playing it just in the sort of games mode, just in big screen mode. So had to go to the desktop to launch games there, and that sort of solved some issues. And still just kind of poking around. Steam Deck, again, I think is a great tool. Not a for everybody device yet. Steam Deck 2 is going to be great for that, hopefully, if it ever gets there. And I'm still waiting for dual boot also, because I would love to be playing Forza on that device. I can through streaming, but not built in, because I have Forza through Games Pass and it's Windows only, baby. So
Baby.
disappointing,
Nice.
but been playing a lot. It's summer, so trying to live up summer before I don't get hurt from again through fall and winter.
Nice. All right. What? Who wants to go next? How about JJ?
JJ.
We'll save the big game for the end. Taylor's forget this. I don't want to talk.
Jeez, because just knows that like.
Yes, he'll be back.
I'll end on my the review code. I'll start with
Sure.
I picked up just for shits and giggles. I picked up Doom Eternal on the Switch.
I also got that
because it's like
go ahead.
$20 for the deluxe edition, like with the DLC and everything. So I was like, all right,
Nice.
this will be fun and interesting. And I that's fine. It's ugly.
It's fine. Yeah,
ugly
it's like
hell.
it's fine. Yeah,
but it plays really well. Like it's a consistent frame rate throughout, which is a sad thing that you have to say with some of these ports on the Switch. But I was pleasant. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. In handheld mode, it's really nice. It's like
it is
on
actually
the OLED,
that's the way I've been playing it too. Yeah.
I put it on
OLED.
I put it on the dock for like just to play for a minute. I'm like, nope. Absolutely not. No way. You know, especially coming from like playing it on like the Series X, which you know that's the fucking 4K bullshit with it. But
I'm always curious to understand in cases like this how the sales are for stuff like Doom Eternal and Wolfenstein and all that kind of stuff on the Switch, because they keep pumping those games out. Bethesda had a really good partnership with Nintendo to put those games, put their games on Switch.
All like Doom Eternal and Wolfenstein 2 are all like on there.
Elder Scrolls was on there with like a native version,
and with and Skyrim had like Link DLC in it.
Yeah.
So
Master Shield in there.
Yeah, and Limited Run is doing like a crazy collector's edition for Doom Eternal Switch edition. Like it's a better collector's edition than the one that like came out previously and stuff. Like it's weird. I also have been playing. I found a translated version of Pictologica, the Final Fantasy Picross game that never came out in America.
Okay.
It's old. It's like you can't even get it on mobile devices anymore, and it never came out.
I think I remember that game.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's Jupiter. It's not like it's a Picross game, and it has like RPG elements in it and everything where you're like unlocking stuff, and it's just, listen, I will take Picross any way I can get it. And this was a way that I haven't played it before, and I was all in. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. It's
why don't they release the Theater Rhythm games on the Switch?
I don't know. See, I started playing the Theater Rhythm again recently, and I was just like, fuck, this legit needs to be
so good.
A Switch game. Like the button controls work really well.
I mean, the closest Theater Rhythm game is the new Kingdom Hearts thing, which is somewhat kind of.
The Dragon Quest one that never came over here is really
man,
good.
that's the one I always wanted. Yeah.
And
it's crazy. There's a bunch of RPG stuff in there.
Yeah, and it's funny that the curtain call or whatever it was for the 3DS version, like the DLC has like some crazy, like that has Live Alive music in it, like like well before it was ever coming out to America. So I like that game a lot. But yeah, I'm playing that Pictologica. But I guess I could talk about the game that I actually got as a review code.
Let's do it.
Another retro game sent my way. It's called Avenging Spirit. It's an old arcade release from 1991 in Japan. It's called Phantasm. Most Americans would probably know it. Most Americans would probably remember it more for the Game Boy game that came out. That one was an earlier Game Boy game, 1992, that has one of the most like deceiving box arts of the time, where it's just like a gangster with a Tommy gun and a spotlight, and that is to be fair, there is gangsters in the game, but not like how it's presented here. So this Avenging Spirit, this is a studio that is playing fast and loose with the concept of a like classic game or even a cult classic game. This really does feel like it's a weird cash grab on a license that they have for old games, because nobody has really any affinity for Avenging Spirit. The story goes as such: you are killed by the mafia.
No,
they kidnap your girlfriend. Her father resurrects you as a ghost because he is a paranormal investigator. Because he's a paranormal investigator. And so at the beginning of the game, you're presented with
Mob Psycho.
Yeah, pretty much. You were presented with 4 characters, and you possess one of the characters, and that's your starting character, and you get their power set. And then once you're in that power set, that's how you're going around these levels. You have 2 health bars. You have the health bar of the character you've possessed and the health bar of your ghost. when your character that you've possessed dies, you have to find another character to take over. And you also have limited time. Your health bar is slowly draining when you're outside of a host. So if you're as a ghost, when it gets to nothing, you die even more. I guess game over. And it's a good idea. It's pitifully easy of a game, especially for an arcade game. You can beat it relatively quickly, a couple of hours if you're like bad at it. And it's really forgiving with like the continues and everything. It's the most interesting thing this game has going for it is sort of a Metroidvania kind of idea where there are certain areas you can't get to unless you possessed a certain enemy. And there are and it has one of those very, very, very cruel features. You'll see in some of the screenshots, there are 3 keys under your health bar. They're right there. It showed it. There are 3 keys hidden in random stages. I know what stages they are in. They are in stages 2, 5, and 6.
Spoilers.
Yes. If you don't get those keys, you get the bad ending. There's no real hint that there's multiple endings. You have to get all 3 keys to get the good ending.
There's either a bad ending or a good ending, is what you're saying.
Yes, and you have to find all 3 hidden keys in those 3 particular stages to get the good ending. And it's just one of those things where you'll get to the end of the game and not realize that's what the keys were for, and you'll get the depressing ending. But I will say one thing that I like about this game is that they do this release, not this game. I'm gonna say that I really don't care for this game. It's easy. It's a cool concept that it doesn't like Kirby does it better. You know, it's basically the same thing. Like
and Kirby's for babies.
Kirby's for babies, and so is this game. But it does give you a lot of features. You can choose. Do you want to play the Japanese version of Phantasm, where it's just the Japanese arcade release, or do you want to play Avenging Spirit, the English release? And it has like 2 different sort of like play styles, which I could not for the life of me figure out what the difference is. As all I can tell was if you choose, like, there's like one that says it's like playing it at home. It's like playing it as if it was intended to be a home release, but it's 1 player only. And if you choose the arcade version, you can have 2 players, and it gives you access to all of the arcade dip switch stuff. So you can go into the menus and change the dip switches, difficulties, and continues, and all that kind of stuff. And that seems to be the only big difference. It also has a lot of filter options. Everyone hates scan lines, but the way they handle it on this is kind of like cute, because like you get to adjust the intensity of the scan lines and also the curvature of the screen. Which I always like the curvature of the screen stuff, like trying to really simulate a really bad, dingy arcade game, like as if nobody's really worked on it for 25 years or something. And it really, you can actually simulate that pretty well in the options for this. But other than that, I think it's a good Switch game because it's like $10 and portable and like just a cute little excursion. The Game Boy cartridge, if you tried to get the Game Boy version of this game, just the original cart of it, it's like $100 game now. So,
oh wow!
But this doesn't include the Game Boy version. I kind of wish it did. I don't know why it doesn't, because the Game Boy version, it actually replicates this game really, really, really well. Like the first stage is almost a 1-to-1 recreation just on a Game Boy. It's really impressive, but it's not in there. It was on the 3DS Virtual Console, so if you have access that way, I guess. But also, you know, but yeah, it's a good little portable arcade game for a cheap entry level. But I can't imagine like wanting to play this on like a PlayStation 5. It just seems like a waste of time and
Sure.
energy. Like
My
it's
Xbox Series X. I'm
Yeah.
about to boot
You
the
bought the
boot up
Series X
Avenging
Boot up
for
this-
this.
put up this weird old arcade game that nobody cares about. Like it's not like this feels like it should be in a compilation before it's in a like a standalone thing. It's like I said, it's a great little Switch thing. That's what I've been
Mhm.
playing it on. That's what the code was for.
Okay.
Because the Switch really is designed for this kind of stuff. Like the arcade stuff that's on there feels natural because it's just a little just the Switch is just this little guy, just a little guy playing little games. It's fun, but it's just an unmemorable game, and
Sure.
unless you're just a hardcore retro gaming enthusiast, there's no reason to pick this up. It's not worth. You're not gonna like get a glimpse of video gaming past or anything. It's not like it's like, oh, this was an important game in the history of Jalico. No, it's not. It was a good Game Boy game, and absolutely nobody in North America remembers the arcade version. I've never
Sure.
been in an arcade in the last 20 years and seen an Avenging Spirit cabinet like propped up in like a
Right.
old time arcade or anything. So
There's
I don't-
definitely a guy on YouTube who is way too excited about this game though.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
he
no,
made it. He
this
was
is
like, this-
yeah.
There's usually more than one.
There's
Yeah.
usually more than one.
That's why I always have a hard time like really digging into some of the older games, because especially with older games, it is somebody's absolute favorite game of all time, and it's like, yeah, power to you, but this does not do it for me in any way. That's
Well-
it. That's all I have to say about Avenging Spirit.
Well, I have a game that that I actually got for review. So I put the call out. Sorry, clear my throat. A lot of Avenging Spirit information. I put the call out for indies, right? And I actually got a good response from a few different indie developers. I'm going to talk about the first one here, and I'll try to space them out over the next couple episodes as well. The first game is that I want to show here. Let me get this thing loaded up. It's called Video Game Fables, and it's by Momiji Studios. So let me share this right here. So what Video
this
Game
game
Fables
looks
is,
really cool.
it is a very much sort of this experimental turn-based RPG, and I'm heavy on the experimental part because let me preface this. I'm going to pause this right here. It's kind of cool. The game takes place in an abandoned RPG. Like people have stopped playing this game, so no one's going to this RPG world. So the typical loop of rescuing the princess as the hero has sort of dried up, and now the princess is kind of sick of it. So she gets captured by this evil alligator dude, this enemy. She ends up escaping because she's 2D and the world is sort of 3D-ish. So she just flips sideways, Super Mario style, and slips through the screen, baby, which is and slips through the jail cell and goes back to the kingdom. And everyone's like, "Wait, you can't be here. What are you doing here?" She's like, "I just kind of got bored. There's the hero, whatever." It reminds me visually a lot of, so Tater is the little henchman kid to this alligator, Tater Gator. In a weird way, everybody's been kidnapped because this, whatever the princess did, whatever other stuff happened, the script has been sort of flipped. So you're now teaming up the princess with Tater and this guy that the princess meets, this kind of wagoneer or whatever, along the way. And you have the same three party members all the time. So it's a turn-based RPG. Visually, it's meant to look very kind of retro and basic. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. It may have just been a lot of Unity assets that they're using because this game is made in Unity, and it's mostly like 1-2 people, I believe, that made this.
This game looks so cool.
It's really interesting because they're bashing. I mean, they bash a bunch of different video game genres together into this idea of RPG genres, I guess. So let me pause it right there. So you have you traverse the world. The world's in 3D. There's other aspects where it goes isometric. There's like weird little car racing things that are built in there. I'm only like 6-7 hours into the game, 5-6 hours into the game. So I haven't unlocked a whole ton of stuff plot wise, but it's sort of this weird loot based system of well, first of all, your XP is shared amongst the group. So you get XP, everybody gets the XP. And then it's also shared on your character and your character skill set and your weapons. And in order to unlock more skills, you got to basically spend XP and the in-game gold or whatever, and then you can start to open up, build up your character stats, all that kind of stuff. The game wants you to try out a bunch of different skills, but there's only 3 characters, and you settle really quickly on what you like skills-wise, so you don't ever end up like I've basically used the same starting skill sets because nothing else really worked for me, and I've kind of given them essentially this job. You can kind of set up different weapons, that kind of stuff. That stuck with me the whole time, and I haven't changed it because it got really comfortable really quickly, and I kind of think that a lot of people will do the same thing. They'll get real comfortable real quick with what their builds are for these guys, and that's it. But you can see on the screen here. Can you see my cursor floating around here? Okay. This is your HP. There's the timeline, so the battle timeline along here, and it depends on basically how quickly you select your attacks, how quickly you do things. You can place stuff on the timeline. Stuff goes in order. You can see, all right, this character. Here's the 3 heroes right here. You have sort of the enemies. Oh, look, this one has one of the heroes, or formerly a bad guy hero, and one of the enemies are going to kind of battle off here and square off. So your goal is to kind of be, more powerful, better, whatever. It's kind of got this little rock, paper, scissors thing built into it, which is pretty neat. If you land a critical hit, you can see you store your critical hit here on this little box. So you get the critical hit, and then you can actually use that critical hit as a more powerful secondary attack. It's kind of an interesting method of critical hit is good, but then you also get to use it kind of twice. And that's basically a turn-based, very easy to understand from that standpoint. It's just that it really wants you to try a lot of the different stuff in the game. And it ends up falling in that zone where you get real comfortable really quick on what you like doing. And then just to enhance some of the, by the way, this is all taking place mid-battle. So like there's just like a weird crap going on. Like the loot aspect to get the materials, which there's like a whole cooking sub aspect of this game. The RNG, I guess, to get those materials is a little bit off. Like it can be really difficult to get some of the stuff that you want to get. The towns are really small. But I know I'm like not sold on some aspects. I think because I'm really comfortable on some things. But the overall concept of this game is really interesting from everything that it's trying to do. Like there was the indie game Evoland. Was it Evoland? I think it was, where you kind of start off as like a pixel, and then eventually you get to like more and more develop from a game standpoint, where you get to like, you go from like a 1-bit game to like, 64-bit game or whatever. Here's, by the way, this is the character screen where you're selecting their weapons, their shields, accessories, where to put the strength, what to develop. You got the whole parties level. You kind of, again, it's a shared XP, so you can do stuff that way. It reminds me of that Evoland game where it's slowly revealing more and more about what this game is. Again, it starts off as, this is the starting town. Starts off as like this real basic idea of this turn-based game, but the more you play, the more just wacky stuff that the dev team is throwing in there to really kind of get you to break the idea of what an RPG is by really pushing those classic RPG tropes on the player. So it's really interesting. Again, I'm like 4 or 5 hours into the game right now, just kind of a lot of grindy, very grindy to get. I guess that's maybe the turn off. Very grindy to get what you want to get. And that's why I think I've fallen into, and that was the that was the part of the method of cracking open, doing some mining for some of the loot. Is it's actually a neat idea. The little thing goes across. You try to get it in this yellow part, or in the depending on where you land in there is the kind of stuff you get, and then you have to land it over here, or else you're going to miss out on some good loot. But super interesting. Again, don't know how incredible. There's fishing.
Fishing, baby.
Fishing, baby, JJ. If there's farming, I don't know if I've gotten to farming yet. But I think the farming would put it over for Zach more than likely. But yeah, an real interesting idea. Definitely messes with those tropes. It's another one of those games that messes with typical RPG tropes, but definitely breaks that fourth wall in that respect. So I'm curious to see how it goes as I play along a little bit further. But it's an indie game, and I generally support indies because they are really creative, and this game is definitely creative. Not a big fan of the visual style because you can see the text right there. It just seems like a box floating in space. But yeah, check it out.
That's called Soul.
It's got soul. But yeah, if you're interested in checking out really cool indies, this is a game to. It's very easy to understand. Just be ready to grind a bit to get what you want out of it. That's it. That's what I got. I've been playing a Xenoblade game, but I'm not going to talk about the Xenoblade game because y'all are talking about a Xenoblade.
Come to me first, because I got other things to talk about. Then we can do Xenoblade.
Okay, go ahead. You go first before Xenoblade.
Okay. I haven't been on the show for a while, so 2 weeks. So I got stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. I got Demon Throttle, which is an arcade game that came out. That's
physical, right?
Physical only. I have 2 copies. One's just sitting in the shrink wrap here.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see.
I see
but
it.
It's like a reverse cover, and they even have an instruction booklet in here.
Nice.
And all that stuff. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a really hard game. It is a bullet hell scroller. Hey, there it is. RPG. And what's really interesting about it is it's a one token game. So you basically, if you die, you die. You start from the very beginning. But what's interesting is you have 2 characters. If you're playing by yourself, you control both. You control the cowboy guy who has a machine gun. You control the demon girl who has a crossbow. And they both have different rates of fire. They both move differently, and they both act. They're just different characters. But what's cool is you can level them up as you're playing. So you get XP from killing demons, and if you're playing by yourself, you want to switch between both of them, get power-ups that you keep throughout the whole run. So as these powers drop, you're like, okay, the cowboy Clive is better with this, and the demon needs a better rate of fire, so I'm going to switch to her, grab this. So as you play, you learn who needs what, and it's just really fun and exciting. Yeah, it's just super hard. I think I've made it halfway through. I haven't beaten the game yet, but it's just really fun to play. It's not a punishing game. It doesn't suck to lose, because you learn the patterns and you can go back and just kind of win.
It's only on Switch, right?
Yeah, it's only on Switch. I think it's on Amazon. You can get it on there but yeah, it's
featuring the SideQuesting.com logo.
Yes, it has the SideQuesting.com logo. Not sponsored. It's just really good, and the writing's really funny. The music's crazy good. The aesthetic is killer. Their CRT filter is really, really good. It just kind of elevates the game. Yeah, it's really unique. It's great. I'm definitely gonna beat it before the year is over, because it's just I have that itch to go back. But there's been other things I wanted to play. But yeah, so definitely get it if you can. If you see it, I don't know, buy my copy, $60. Hey. I also have the stickers on my bottle. They put a bunch of stickers, put them on my bottle. anime stickers too. But yeah, there's a bunch of things.
I think
also
I
have-
pre-ordered my copy like last year when they first announced it. It's only gonna be physical. I'm like, all right, crap, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
And then I'd forgotten about it, and all of a sudden I get the notification. It's like it's out for delivery. What's out for delivery? Demon Throttle. Cool.
It's really good.
Looks cool.
Yeah. So that Live Alive, Live Evil, whatever
Live
you want to
Alive-
call
Live
it.
Alive.
That
I-
game is.
I looked it up because I needed to know officially what it is, and it's Live Alive.
Is it
Yeah.
Live Alive? Oh.
Yeah.
So Live Alive is really good. I haven't played enough of it, but it's really good. Play it.
Yeah, I am
That's
in
it.
the same boat.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned in the chat in our Discord. By the way, join the Discord. I mentioned that I love that it's these kind of short 2 to 3 hour scenarios, which works for me. I mean, definitely do the demo.
The demo will tell you if you like it or not.
Yeah, because you get 2 of the scenarios right there, and they're 2 very different. Excuse me. The demo will tell you if you like it or not. It's definitely you definitely see a lot of you see it as a predecessor to a lot of genres. Like it mixes like strategy in there, it mixes the interweaving paths of like something like Octopath and other stuff on there.
Yeah,
got some turn-based
it's
things in there.
the combat's really cool. It's active time battle, but it's on
Yeah.
a grid. So your
Yeah.
console, like you move and the enemy moves, and you're kind of like in this like constant shuffle. And the different characters have different kind of genres that they
Yeah,
exist
yeah.
in of
Some are
game
wildly
of like
different.
of
Yeah.
like just like gameplay in general. Like there's a wrestler who's kind of a blue mage. Like he gets hit by an attack and he learns the attack. He wants to be the best fighter.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, and eventually he'll join.
Taskmaster.
Yeah, eventually he'll join your party. So you're like, hey, I need to
Yep.
make him, cool. So yeah, it's just really fun. The
Cool.
Western one's really fun. Learning how to angle shots as you're moving around this board. There's even one that's like has no combat. It's just like based thousands of years in the future after the game kind of happens, and you're just this robot looking back in the past of what happened. And it's really cool. It's really experimental. It's really strange that it even got this treatment. So yeah, definitely
Yeah, good
support
for
it. It's $50, which is
Mhm.
not cheap, I guess, but it's cheap for what it is.
Mhm.
But yeah, that game's
Live
cool.
Alive. Oh wait,
Uh,
question from Plaion. He said, "Did they give a reason for physical only for Demon Throttle?" Yes, they did. The answer
because
is
it's cool.
because.
Because yeah, no.
Yes, because.
I think it's just because it's cool. Like
Yeah.
let's do something.
Fuck
Like
it, let's do it.
Doinksoft, these guys, I know them personally. They're really interesting dudes. They used to work at who took Cave Story. I hate this developer.
Nicholas?
Callus.
Nicholas,
Yeah.
yes. They used to
Oh, yeah,
work
yeah,
there.
yeah.
They used to work in the indie game sweatshop, as they call it. And they broke out, made Gato Probato, which is a mech cat Metroidvania.
I love that game. I love
That game's
that game.
Yeah.
great.
So
And then
good.
they made this, and they have another one coming out end of this year about a assassin that uses an umbrella. That's just gonna be on everything. Yeah, so they're just really good about taking really interesting ideas and just making a game about it. They even have a mobile game. I forget what it's called.
Mhm.
But yeah, they're just really smart.
Anyways, continue. Next
Anyway,
game.
so next game is my review game actually that I
Yeah,
have.
the
So
real
let me show you my screen. Screen one. No, I'm just kidding. Hold on. Let me go.
Fucking leave.
Okay.
Here we go.
So
Part duh.
Room
I didn't
Factory
get to see
5.
part 1.
No, but you'll
Yeah, you didn't
you'll get
miss-
the vibe. So Room Factory 5 is a game I played on the Switch that I actually just hated it on the Switch just due to it just being a bad performing playing game. And playing it on the PC made me say, hey, this game isn't that bad until it eventually got bad. We'll
Yeah.
get to that. So what I have to say is they did good by making it load fast. It's got 4K resolution. It's got unlocked frame rate. It's really interesting how the Switch version is just so botched down to like, it goes down to like 20 frames a second. Like someone did a test and it's like the actual game clock runs slower in the Switch version because the frame rate goes down so slowly. It just like it's a game down so low. It's like the game runs at like 0.25% slower than it would on the PC, which is it's crazy. So daytimes are longer because the game runs worse. Yeah, so it's just really weird. In the Switch version, the game like loads twice sometimes, and it kind of like is really it's crazy. They did good, but uh
Uh-oh.
everything else kind of sucks. So like, it's like everything's kind of a downgrade from Rune Factory 4. Rune Factory 4 is this kind of like penultimate conclusion of this kind of genre. The genre is called the Bokujo genre. It's like the low life sim farming genre. And Rune Factory was always the sci-fi fantasy offshoot of Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons, and they would add things and tweak things each iteration that felt interesting. I honestly haven't played the first 2 or 3 games in the series. There's an offshoot one on the PS3, but I played the fourth one and the third one. And from 3 to 4 is huge, but 4 is just kind of this like it's just a really good feeling game. It has so much stuff. As the farming feels good, it's really fast paced, and like it's like the combat is also really fun. A lot of RPG mechanics, learning magic, leveling up you know your skills. Like, hey, I'm gonna focus on swords, hey, I'm gonna focus on hammers, I'm gonna focus on fists, I'm gonna focus on claymore. Like leveling up of that, going through dungeons, finding things, cool. It's just like, what I will say, in Rune Factory 5, the combat is good. It's serviceable. You press a button, you just kind of dodge. It's really easy, whatever. Like, it's a serviceable thing. There is a mechanic where now, it was like this before, but now it's kind of more toned down, where you can catch monsters kind of like Pokemon. They all have different abilities on the farm. So it's like, oh, this cow thing is good at this fluffy thing is good at watering. This good thing is good at carrying stuff. So like you learn who's good, who to put in your barn, whatever. It's serviceable. Farming is also easy. It's simple. It's like way more simplified than it was before. And but the big thing is the shift to 3D just kind of makes it feel weird. Like it's like it doesn't hit right. It's like it's gonna need another iteration for it to finally land. You know, like the shift from 2D to 3D. Well, they went from 3D to 2D to 3D, and it's just something is like off. The way you farm in these Rune Factory games, if you're not aware, is you can like stack your things up. You can carry 9 stacks of things like this, and then you can lock on to your like bin where you like store stuff or like sell stuff and throw it. So you're just like zooming through, picking up stuff and throwing shit, going as fast as you can, and it's fun. It's like you're just like going crazy, canceling stuff and like moving, and that's really cool. It doesn't feel as good as it does in 4 as it does in 5. So like that's just kind of stinky. Yeah, and the story just kind of sucks. Like I need something else now. I guess I've learned I need something else to kind of hook me with these farming games. Like I need a story to kind of like keep me wanting to play. Like there's just not really. I'm just kind of sitting here like, I don't really care about these characters. All the characters are kind of suck. No one's interesting really. The only interesting guy is just like furry dude who runs like a what's the word? A hot springs. He's really cool. He's a guy I married because he's the only one I thought was interesting. I was like, I'm gonna marry this guy, but like that's it. Like it's just like it's just not for me. I think that's it. I think I've kind of hit that wall with this series. Like, yeah, this just isn't for me. And that kind of made me re-examine my like taste. Like, am I just addicted to the farming, or do I need something else? Am I addicted to like the incremental, increasing kind of gameplay? I think I'm more addicted to that, but I need something else to hook me in. So what I've come to the conclusion is of how do we fix this is just one, having just like a fun world to enjoy and really interesting twists on this genre. Like, hey, Ooblets is a really good twist on this genre. By the way, the game is about to be out of early access, about to be finished in like a couple weeks. So that's cool. And what they do is you farm these little guys and you do dance parties and you fight and you just kind of get resources to rebuild this small town and like get other dudes to do dance parties and like build other parts of the world. Like, it's just really interesting. It's the same farming incremental addiction that I need, but there's something else there. And I think that's what I need with the genre. I'm just kind of over just hardcore focus on farming and combat type of thing. If I want to do that, Stardew is there. I'll just play that again. It's the perfect example of that kind of game. And then Bear and Breakfast, this new game that came out, is actually another thing that's like, it's you get your resources and you build towards something. Bear and Breakfast, you run a bed and breakfast and you're a bear. It's really interesting. There's a lot of weird, esoteric, Lovecraftian stuff happening in that game too. It's a really fun story. But essentially, you're running a bed and breakfast. You're organizing rooms and making things look pretty for guests, and it's that same core like farming kind of thing, getting resources and applying it to something else. And you just get to see the number go up, get to see things get better. Interesting. But aesthetically, both of these games just look good. Like they're just fun to look at. Like Ooblets, like this is how this game looks. Like it's just fun. Like I want to live in this world. Like I want to farm. Like this is a farm. Hey, like this is from the Switch port, by the way. So look out for that. But yeah, this is like they even have your little dudes. Like these are your little guys that help you run your farm. They go and collect things for you, so you can just kind of like streamline everything in this game. And and that's fun. It's fun to figure out ways to streamline things, grind for resources to apply to stuff, to level up, to get just that whole thing. And then Bear and Breakfast, like this game is gorgeous. Like this is how it's like a hand-drawn kind of thing. There's cooking. You run a bed and breakfast. You got to cook for your guests. It's fun to do that. Here's organizing a room, designing a room, building it out. Like, and there's also a bunch of resources you have to collect to make that happen. And here's like the story. Here's a character, Eris, who you meet, this like really Lovecraftian kind of spiritual fox thing that you kind of encounter. Because the story's just really, really cool. But yeah, it's just we need more games like these two to kind of, for me at least, to like make the genre what I used to like. Like Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons, those games have moved away from what they used to be. They're kind of becoming more that they're chasing the Stardew Valley. And then Rune Factory was the different one, and now it's kind of just like falling in on itself. It's not as iterative as I want it to be, and it's still like Stardew Valley. It's still like, why would I play this when I could play Stardew? But like now it's like, why would I play that when I can play these other kind of imaginations of the same genre? So yeah, that's kind of it in my thoughts on those.
Nice.
But now we can go into
the big one.
Xenoblade. Yeah, this I guess Taylor can talk.
The real meat. No, you start. And I'll chime in.
I'll just lead this in with saying Xenoblade 3 is really good. It's so good that I can't believe it's a real game. Like that's just kind of how I feel. I'm just like, whoa, like it feels special to me. But it's really special because Xenoblade 1 is a very good game, but not until 40 hours in. 40 hours in, you're like, oh shit, like this is cool. Xenoblade 2, the same thing. It's like at first it's not apparent that this game is good. Like it's also hard to recommend that game to people. I was thinking about this the other day. I was doing dishes. I was like, Xenoblade 2 isn't bad, but it's like I would never recommend this to anybody. Like it's hard to be like, hey, you want to play this game with big anime booby girls and like
The only people that you'd recommend it to have already played it. Like they already know about it, and it's their shit. Like what are you gonna do? Walk up and be like, oh yeah, I played Xenoblade Chronicles, and then I wasn't interested in the second one. That person isn't really out there.
There are people that I know, at least, that didn't want to play 2 because of the heavy leaning into just kind of this like horny anime aesthetic, which is kind of just like it's very strange.
And if that's the reason and if that's the reason they give you, and you go out and knowing that recommend them number 2, they're gonna be like, yo, dog, I'm never gonna listen to your opinions ever again.
Yeah, but it's like if you played 1, you got to play 2. Like that's just kind of how I feel. That's why I played 2. But with 3, it's like 3, I could recommend to anybody. Be like, hey, you want to play a good JRPG? Xenoblade 3. Like this game is good. It's not horny. It's a very mature game. It has a story that is pretty different for what the genre has. And it's all the best parts of 1 and 2 put together, and then all the critiques of 1 and 2 put in there too. And it's just like, it's so fucking sick. Like the story is like, hey, you're a guy named Noah, and Noah is an off-seer. He sees the dead. He plays music for their souls to be brought to the afterlife. And the general synopsis is there's these 2 fighting factions, and you basically have 2 countries that raise and breed people from birth to be soldiers, and the characters that you play as are soldiers who have been trained to fight since the age of 10, and they
also aren't, I mean, like birth also seems they're not quite right, because they're
replicated from
or something that, at least as far as I am through the story, that has not been revealed yet, but they emerge at like the age of 10.
They're just like spawned at the age of 10, and then they have a 10-year.
They only live for 10 years.
Life. Yeah, so they have a 10-year shelf life. You're like, hey, you live for 10 years, but most of them don't get to see that 10-year existence. Like they die before that. That's their goal. Is to basically like
they are expendable.
They're expendable. They're fighting for these big mech gods to like fill up their fire things that give power to their armies to make more dudes, to make more mechs, to fight this unending war. And eventually
they meet that guy, and then he's like I'm 60, and everybody's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's like, why are you wrinkled? What the heck is this? And it's like, and they're like, things exist outside of your worldview, and you should explore that. They're like, huh? And like and they eventually encounter a guy named Morbius, and he's a big mech.
And then they morb out pretty hard, actually.
And then they morb out, and they're like, hey, you can combine with people and become mechs, which is cool. But the interesting thing is the 3 characters of the main cast are from one side of the war. The other 3 are from the other side of the war. So they both have these different opinions and views of things that are going on. So that makes the main cast just really interesting from the start. In the first hour, like you have this forecast that you just build on, like their morals and their ideals, and you just kind of just keep building and expanding on them. It's just so interesting. But what is also so impressive about the game is the story informs how the gameplay works. It informs the mechanics. Like you learn something in the story, and it makes something happen in the mechanics. Like, for example, in one side, the one country, the way these characters control are different than the way the other characters control. Like they build their specials up due to auto attacking, and this one builds them up just like over time or from canceling their arts or whatever. Like, and you learn that they have different fighting styles. But in the cutscene before, you get to learn about their different fighting styles. So it's like it's just a really good way to like show and then tell. And it's so good, especially compared to 1 and 2, where they don't do that. Their tutorials are just like constantly, hey, sit here and read this. Like, hey, here's this thing that we should have shown you 20 hours ago, but now you're learning about it. But like this game does a good job of just showing you things and keep escalating and going and going. And it's just a master class of like how to do game design and do like, it's crazy. It's just really good. Yeah, I've probably put like 30 hours into it. Maybe at chapter 2, maybe chapter 3. I don't even know. It's just really
that number is distressing. I'm gonna be real.
There's a lot of stuff, and I looked up the cutscene length, like how long the cutscenes are, and it is 19 hours of cutscenes. So Metal Gear Solid 4, for example, has 9. So there's 10 extra hours of cutscenes in this game. And I will tell you, this game does not shy away from cutscenes from the very get-go. There are so many
you kind of like, you hit the first like major story point. We talked about Mobius and that thing. That whole sequence surrounding the Mobius encounter was like, all right, battle, cutscene, significantly longer than the battle, another battle, and then another cutscene immediately, which was also longer than both of the battles put together. And it was just like battle, cutscene, battle, cutscene, battle, cutscene.
And so also here's another cool thing that just like showing how they do the show and tell. There's a point where the characters they have these like irises that can like see information that's usually just to get data from the like their
By the way, this guy right here, I'll show you in a second when this guy loads up. There's a this guy he's
in every single one of those games.
Every single Xenoblade game of this big hairy gorilla dude sleeping.
No, there's a big ass one. He's like walking around like level 94 in the first like.
So of course I was gonna make a comment, but like it was typical Monolith. You get to the first open world scenario and there's a level 80 that you immediately walk past and you're like, oh, okay, it's a Monolith game.
Yeah. Yep. So like what they do to do the show and tell thing is the characters have these irises where they can receive data for like battle or whatever. And the main character Noah, he like taps his eye thing just because they've been taken out of the network, taken out of the hive mind. That's like the hook. They're out of the hive mind. They're free to roam, which is not good. So people are trying to find them. So he like activates his eye. And he's like, he can see the class icon for the character. He's like, what is this? That's interesting. Like, why can I see this? I wasn't able to see this before. And he clicks this thing and he switches to that character's class. And they go, oh, that's weird. And the clothes change. And then the other character does it. And that's how you learn about class switching. Like there's 25 different classes in this game that you unlock these things called hero quests where you meet heroes in the world. You get to learn about their thing, inherit their stuff. Really, really, really cool. And you get to rank those up. I think the max rank is like 25. Yeah. So it's just so cool. Be like, hey, this show, tell. And it's all just in there. It's so cool.
And but the pacing was also like on point because like the thing is that so they now know that they can't go back, right? So they're like, okay, shit, we need clothes. They're in a camp, and so everybody picks out their own clothes, and then the scene that Zach just described follows immediately afterwards. So they pick out their old clothes to basically show, okay, this is what the class looks like, and then they followed up immediately with everybody like swapping classes around, and those costumes that they picked out are what indicate what the classes are. It's very well done.
Yeah, it's I was just saying this, but it's like Nintendo finally has their like Uncharted, like, but it's not an Uncharted game, like, but it's like a cinematic adult kind of like game. Like, this is Nintendo's flagship, like, hey, like this is our game to show off this console, like, and it's taken them time to get there, but it's like it's just it's such a mature game. It's just like I think I really want to drive that in. Like the game handles a lot of things that other games don't. And it's just good to be like, you know what, I'm gonna tick off an hour. I'm gonna go sit down an hour with this game, and there's stuff I can do. Like I could do the story, I could do side stuff, and it's just like pushing towards something. And also the side stories are also the same quality as the main quest, so you're never like really missing out, and it's always informing the lore of this world. There's nothing of waste. That it's just really it's a lot of meat. Yeah, it's just really good. It's it's weird because I wasn't going to buy this game at all. Like I was just kind of like, okay, I didn't really like 2. It was okay. I liked 1 a lot, but I eventually played through 1 and 2 again. I was like, I don't really think I want to hit 3. And I think I'm just not a fan of these types of games, despite spending 200 hours prior with those games. Then I watched a review of a guy who said, like, I've always hated these games, and this one finally hit. And he explained all these things that I just kind of explained. I was like, oh shit, like this game sounds good. And then I played it, and I was just kind of blown away. Like I was just like really like, holy crap! Like this is just a solid JRPG that I am enjoying, and I'm enjoying taking away from other things that I've been wanting to invest time in. Yeah, it feels special.
Yeah, it's doing things and it's doing new things, and it's doing those things in a way that is actually fun. You know, like I said, it's one of those things where there's a bunch of similarities to Xenoblade. The first thing that I thought was going to happen was, because it's very obvious that, you know, in the first hours of the game that you're going to get these extra characters into your party, right? And I was just waiting for it to be like, okay, well, time to cut that maximum party size down, folks, because that's how it's always been for the other Xenoblade games. And then it didn't, and I was like, okay. And so it's just nice to watch things actually change and for the better, in my opinion. The things that they added to the map are actually interesting. There's kind of just like shiny enemies every now and there's so much shit to pick up, which, I mean, that's not that interesting, but it is a change that's there, and you know,
it's there for a reason.
A lot of good.
But the characters are so good. Like it's the reason why I wanted Taylor to play this game so bad is because whenever he was going through Final Fantasy 14, he would always talk to me about the cast and how he loved the cast so much, and like he just wanted to hang out with these people. And I was like, if that's the drive for a JRPG, because a hook for a JRPG for me, and most of the time, is just to grind and to play the game. Yeah, like the cast is usually like not my main concern, but this is just like, whoa, like these characters are so well realized and they're funny, and like I just want to hang out with these people and I want to see them to the end. And I know their end isn't. I know there's not going to be a happy ending. There's no chance this game ends happily. But
good.
Like I just want to see what happens to them. And it takes a lot for a game to do that for me, because a lot of times JRPG stories are just kind of like, okay, whatever, like we're going to go kill God and that's the end of it. Like, and I mean, Taylor and I were playing Final Fantasy 9 before this, and Final Fantasy 9 does an amazing job of what this game does. Like it has amazing characters, and it just kind of does the best of the series in one game, you know. And this game, it's just really well realized.
It's gonna take a minute to get to some. It's crazy to watch like this being a trailer and being like, yo, I have no idea what the fuck is happening in a lot of this shit.
I just met that guy, the guy with the sword and the shield.
I have no
Guardian
idea.
Commander.
What's interesting is this is the second highest rated Xenoblade game, next to the original Wii version of Xenoblade Chronicles.
Which I think it has a really I mean, it has a really strong novelty factor. Xenoblade Chronicles did a lot of cool shit that nothing had really done on a console style RPG.
Yeah,
And it was one of those rainfall games that
Yeah.
it was.
had
Right.
that, yeah. So
There
it
was
had-
Well, like, you know, like,
petition and all
as
that stuff.
well, and as successful as the Wii was, there wasn't anything that was kind of different and cool
Right.
that
Sure, yeah.
that Xenoblade Chronicles did. So
It's
so-
amazing that Rainfall essentially led to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, because if that didn't happen in the US, these games wouldn't have made it over. And they probably wouldn't have made it any further.
No, there's this amazing hour and a half long documentary I watched on YouTube. Some
Okay.
guy made about the just history of this team, and it's crazy the stuff that they've gone through. But it's crazy to see how this series has evolved over time, because we don't like to think about this, but this is a continued story they've been telling since Xenogears. Like, this is like at the end of Xenogears, they say at the end of episode 5. What's the other episodes? Well, we've been experiencing those. Like, but it's also what's really interesting to me is the iterative process those games have gone through. They all have the same DNA, the all kind of same play style. It's just so interesting to watch how that's evolved over time, and Nintendo kind of taking them under their wing and saying like, hey, like, we believe in you guys, make us some cool stuff. And they did. And then they're like, okay, you guys are great, now help us make our games cool. Like, okay, we'll help you make things cool. And then they're like, hey, make Xenoblade 2 with 45 people on the team. They're like, okay, we can do that easy. Like, and they did it, and it became their best-selling game, period. Like, Xenoblade 2 is a huge selling game, best in the series. I think 3 probably sold better just due to 2 being as big as it was. So, like,
launch-wise,
So, this team
And
just kind of can do anything. Just
kind of hard to
crazy.
believe that they beat Chronicles X. So I think
the
about
game
it.
that sold 3 copies on the console that sold 4 copies.
I was one of them in both counts.
I was one of them. I bought the collector's edition strategy guide for that game.
I got that. Oh, I got the actual collector's edition of Xenoblade Chronicles X, but not the strategy
You guys are
guide.
more broken than me. That's saying something.
It's interesting. I really do hope that that's the game that they put that game back out.
It should. You know what? Here's the thing: is that with all the porting that they've done, I do, and with how successful the Xenoblade name has been, it is kind of strange that they have not ported that game to Switch.
Yeah.
It'll probably be after this.
Of course. Yeah.
You try and get this game, get the hype, and then use that to be like, hey, you didn't know about this game because nobody bought it. Here you go.
Well, also, I think it's just I forget the director's name. From all the research I've done on him, he's like written like 500-page stories for all these
Kojima
games.
or Genki Yakoda.
Whoever the original guy is, I forget his name. He's written like 500-page manuscripts for all these games that have had to been like cut to shit because they're like, hey, this isn't going to happen. Nintendo allowed him to actually make the game with the budget. It was the first time for the first Xenoblade game. He actually got to see his vision. But what's really interesting is I think they've been really focused on finishing the Xenoblade series, because 3 is the end of the Chronicles kind of thing. 1 and 2 are different timelines in this story. 3 is the convergence of those two timelines. So what is going to happen is Xenoblade X is somewhere else in the timeline.
It's earlier, I think, because it actually starts off with like Earth refugees, basically.
Yes, I think so, is where it would go in the timeline. But yeah, I think that's going to be their next focus. I would imagine they'd be like, "Hey, let's do X remake or whatever, then X2 or whatever."
So you're telling me I'm not going to get Project Cross Zone 3? Is that what?
No, you're not going to get Project Cross Zone 3 with, dude. I don't know how those games got made, but they just give this studio. People just trust this studio. Like, hey, here's some money, make whatever. Like, okay, well, let's make a little visual novel game because we can. Yeah, the fact that this studio just kind of is the heavy lifting studio for Nintendo, like they're just kind of like, hey, we need you. We'll let you make whatever you want if you make Zelda. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean that's the other thing that isn't quite or that we didn't quite mention is
Oh yeah.
the technical prowess of this game on the Nintendo Switch is quite good, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of nutty, because there are many other companies and games that make a lot more money, and they are not even close to what Monolith Soft is doing.
It gives me hope for Breath of the Wild 2 to be 60 frames, because this game is consistently 50 to 60. It's not a consistent 60.
There's some drops.
There's some drops, but the way it does, like it does, what is it called? Like active scaling, where if there's things going on, sometimes your characters will get really pixely looking, but it will stay consistent and it'll look good.
Yeah, and then I mean, I'd have to rewatch the Digital Foundry video to use all the right words, but it also does reshading or redrawing of the aliasing lines, where like the longer something is in a frame, the clearer it becomes. So something will look fuzzier for the first 3 frames, and then all of a sudden it'll swap and redraw it dynamically. It's the actual tech behind it is really interesting stuff, and it shows because it looks good.
Also, I just can't say this more, but the combat is just really good. It's fast. It's really fast.
I finally got the thing where I can press the start button and do the big combos, and that's it's a lot of fun.
Chain attacks are different this time around, and they take a lot of thinking. You're like, it's like you gotta
it's not super dumb where you just have to activate the one super mode from like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Chain attacks are there, except the whole goal was just to activate super Pyra mode, and then just you won every fight that you managed to do it in.
This is like,
I'm hoping that's not the case here too eventually.
No. So what this does is really interesting, is like you pick like each role has a different thing it adds to the chain attack. So like, hey, so if you start the combo off, it'll give you 3 characters to start off. It'd be like, hey, if you start with this character, if the chain succeeds, 70% of attacks will crit or whatever, like something like that. You start the attack, and each character pops up, has a number assigned to it, and you need to build to above 100%, and then you can activate the chain. If you end the chain on a healer, the healer shoots the chain up to 99%. If you end it on so you shoot up to 99, and then you can activate someone else to go above that, so you even increase your multiplier more. Then if you end on a tank, they'll automatically restart the round, so you'll automatically get that effect that you chose at the beginning. So there's a lot of thinking and planning you need to do to build up to these like 800 times multipliers or 1,000 times or whatever that also increase your XP gains too. But bosses have a lot of health, so they're designed specifically for you to be like, hey, we need to like activate this thing, and I need to actually use my brain to like figure this out. It's really hard to explain because it's very intricate, but it is a fulfilling mechanic. And even the fact, even like playing like the battles from moment to moment, you have your 3 face buttons, and then you have your D-pad, which you can also use to fuse the attacks to get the effects of both attacks. That you get the D-pad attacks from other classes. So you multi-class, but okay, I get this stun from this and fuse it with this AoE from this, and like you just get to have all these things that you get to create yourself, which is really fun. It's fun to like theory craft. Like, ooh, the hammer class has this knockback attack. If I mix that with my AoE, I can knock back all these enemies. Like, oh, cool. Like, it's just fun. Like, it's just like, but it's fast too. It's like so quick. And you can change characters on the fly, which is cool. And all of them play drastically different. So it's like, oh, this character is from this nation, so I need to cancel these attacks quickly, or oh, this one does this, so I need to. It's just it requires a lot, so it makes it fun. You don't go into auto mode like you would in a normal JRPG. Like you're just like, oh, like I'm actively involved.
The only thing you can auto mode is stuff that doesn't get you enough experience for it to be worth it.
Well, there is an actual auto mode, by the way, that you can
is there?
turn on if you want to.
I did not know that. I'm not
so
gonna do
anyone
that.
can play the game if they're like, I'm too dumb for this, or hey, I'm a baby, I want to like not do this. I don't know. There's probably a person out there who's like, I just want to play this story, put it on easy auto, hang out, whatever. But there's that option, which is cool. So, hey, yeah, it's a good game. I didn't expect the flagship title from Nintendo to be Xenoblade 3, but hey, you're like this, like in years' time, we'll be saying, isn't it crazy on the Switch? Xenoblade 3 came out the last year of the base Switch. Like that's just, it's going to be something that we talk about.
2 months before the new Switch was announced, and the Switch Lite, the OLED were released. Really kind of wild.
Yeah,
but no, I'm definitely looking forward to this. I picked it up like a dummy. I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is the lowest the low point in the series, but even though it's still good, just that gotcha.
It's still
aspect.
good.
You
got big boobies too.
Yeah, well, it's funny because they definitely point that out as they point the perverted side of those big beards.
Well, the thing is, it's that Kojima thing, that tweet he made about Quiet, where it's like you will regret your words and deeds, because people were saying like she's too sexualized because she's showing her skin, and he's like, you'll regret that, and it's because she breathed through her skin, like whatever. Like it's kind of that thing with Xenoblade 2 is like you're gonna like with this one at least is kind of like, okay, I kind of feel bad, like I kind of understand. But it's really cheap, kind of like, ooh, you feel bad now, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, not really.
So they announced story content in the DLC. It's going to be coming next year sometime. They did it with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. They added it in the original Xenoblade Chronicles, the definitive edition, which I'm very bummed because I would purchase that on its own because I've already beaten and completed the story, the original Xenoblade, twice. I don't want to have to do it again.
No, I would not.
To play.
Have you played it, Jolly?
Not the definitive version, no.
So that story is pretty cool. It takes place a year after the game ends.
I heard, but you need to. Do you need to play the full game to experience that DLC?
Yeah, because it takes place a year after the game ends. Oh no, actually no. You can buy it and just play that if you want.
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking.
But I mean, for the story, like obviously,
okay.
But no, it's like it takes place a year after, on like a remnant of the whatever. It's like at the shoulder that's just floating. That's cool. But I hope this game does the DLC like they did for 2, where it's like kind of like 3 kind of whatever things, like the swimsuits, and then the challenge mode, and then they did the Torna, which is like, whoa, is a whole different game. I hope that's what this is leading to, some little connection to
you would
game.
think so.
I hope there's swimsuits.
Yeah,
Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2 they run in parallel.
Yeah, they're definitively linked because the antagonists are directly, kind of the kind of antagonist. Definitely the antagonist from 1 exists as a character in 2, although he is not an antagonist there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. I don't want to like even though Chronicles 2 came out a while ago. I don't want to overtly spoil that one too much.
And then in 3, there's this. No, I'm not even gonna say it. But in 3, there's a lot of Xenosaga stuff in 3. I'm like,
yeah. I mean, I never played Saga, so I don't know. But I mean, obviously, the first 2 things that jump out at me are the fact that it's the Monado basically the Monado is the sword that Noah uses, and then what's Cat Girl's name?
Mio.
Mia, like she has the same crystal that the old cat girl did from Xenoblade Chronicles
Okay.
2.
Well, all the bad guys have the same crystal as Pyra has in Xenoblade 2. Like, so hey, they got the same design. They're like the little...
I recognize a bunch of shit, and I'm like, that looks familiar, but I'm not.
That's what's so cool is like
I'm not enough of a nerd to like be like, oh, it's that.
They did asset cycling, like recycling, but it's in a smart way. It's like, oh shit, like here's this area from Xenoblade 1. Here's this area from Xenoblade 2.
Yeah, except it all makes sense and has a purpose as opposed to
like, oh, here's the Bionis sword from Xenoblade 1. We're going to that in this game. Oh my gosh. Hey, there's this Titan from Xenoblade 2. What is that? Like, it's really cool. And there's some things that happen that are really interesting. But
well,
get there.
Yeah, I would say
we'll save that for the recap episode where after we all beat Xenoblade Chronicles 3, we come back, we circle back, and we're like, we do just our
there you go
our 2-hour long show. Dally's going to be the MC for the show. He'll just make sure that we just keep talking forever,
much like today.
And I'm
1 hour 45 minutes.
Love
this is actually this is shorter than I thought it would.
With all the news and all the games. But we did spend about 35 plus minutes on Xenoblade 3, but that's okay.
That's kind of the point. That's not. I have a lot more to say, but I just can't.
I mean, I'm gonna right now. I'm playing.
Zach, if you could say after the show's done, okay.
I'm playing through Xenoblade 2, so my goal is finish Xenoblade 2, and then as I get back into my other games like Live Alive, Triangle Strategy, at the same time I'll be playing Xenoblade 3. So Xenoblade 2 is still sort of fresh in my mind. So yeah, that'll be that. But anyways, let's wrap it up. It's late. It's Sunday night. Everyone's got to work tomorrow.
We do.
Gents,
everybody's got to work.
Sam's
already sleeping.
Yeah.
By the way, JJ's beard is already in such great shape, and look at mine. Oh, God almighty. Gents, it's been awesome. JJ, thank you as usual. Thanks for talking about Avenging Spirit. You have Avenging Spirit.
Aww.
Zach, thank you for you and Taylor for taking us down the Xenoblade journey. Mechanis, Bionis.
Part one of 47.
Yeah.
We got like 150 more hours left in that game.
Final Fantasy 14 all over again.
You'd be so lucky.
Sam, thank you for being Sam.
I'm so glad I could be here for Xenoblade talk.
Have you ever played a Xenoblade game, Sam?
I'm gonna let you know that I watched my brother play one of them. I think on the Wii U.
Okay.
So Chronicles X.
For close to an hour and did not understand anything that was going on.
It's all right. I played it for a lot longer than that, and I have no fucking clue.
I just know there's mechs in it, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It also looked like poop, so I don't know.
And I'm Dolly Demosky, Double D. I will see y'all, beautiful people. We sure will. All of us will see you all, beautiful people, on the next episode of SideQuest. Until then, have a safe and wonderful journey. Watch what you eat. Bye-bye.
Bye.